Welcome to Africa channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us.
Compact luxury SUVs make up a crucial segment of the automotive business. Often positioned as entry-level models, their job is to convince buyers to spend a little more money to obtain the prestige of a luxury brand. Get it right, and they'll attract decades of profitable repeat business. Get it wrong and the buyer goes back to blue-collar brands, or another luxury mark. We gathered 4 compact SUVs that represent a wide range of approaches to luxury. Since these are special vehicles, we chose a special destination. Big Bear Lake, a Southern California vacation land where you can water ski or snow ski, sometimes on the same day. Located nearly 7,000 feet above sea level and accessible only by twisty, challenging roads, we thought a road trip to Big Bear was the ideal way to test these aspirational sport utes. The Acura RDX was redesigned for 2019, updated in 2022, and enters 2023 with no changes except the addition of 3 years of Acura Link services and 2 years of complimentary maintenance. Acura sent a top-of-the-line A-spec advanced model with optional all-wheel drive, priced at $55,545 and powered, like all RDXs, by a 272 horsepower, 2.0-liter turbo 4. The 2023 Genesis GV70 is the SUV to beat. It was our 2022 Motor Trend SUV of the year, and our recently departed long-term GV70 left us pleased and impressed. Of course, that was the top-of-the-line V6 powered sport prestige model. For this comparison, Genesis sent an AWD GV70 with the 300 horsepower 2.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine in one from the top advanced trim. Its $53,500 price tag was the lowest in this comparison. Last year, a Lexus NX 350 in F-Sport trim narrowly lost a comparison to the GV70, but the NX bravely showed up for a rematch, and we're glad it did. Like the RDX and the GV70, the NX is largely unchanged for 2023. Lexus sent a standard AWD model, as opposed to an F-Sport, with the 275 horsepower turbo 2.4 and a sticker price of $56,930. Big news for the Lincoln Corsair is its new for 23 Active Glide hands-free driving system. Lincoln sent a mid-level reserve model with a 250 horsepower 2.0-liter turbo engine. Active Glide is only available in a high-end $10,730 option package, which made the AWD Corsair's $61,535 price the highest here. We had high expectations for our contenders. Of greater importance than our usual SUV criteria, space and practicality, we looked for them to justify their higher cost. Driving engagement is important, but mostly we sought a sense of prestige. If we were laying out our own cash for these premium branded SUVs, would they make us feel like we'd spent our money well? Our gang of 4 Motor Trend editors departed Los Angeles on the 210 freeway, a long and none too interesting drive that gave us a chance to evaluate interiors and technology. Right away, the 2023 Genesis GV70 set the pace. Its cabin drips with classic leather-lined ambience, real leather, not synthetic, and we love how its designers weave digital and analog controls into a cohesive and handsome whole. The climate controls are a perfect example of form and function in harmony, and we like the fact the auto mode has low, medium, and high blower settings rather than just a single Arctic blast speed. Lincoln does this well, too. You could say we're big fans. One serious disappointment was Genesis' awful voice recognition system. We could barely get it to change radio stations, let alone program a destination. We were pleasantly surprised by the 2023 Lincoln Corsair's cabin. Despite extensive use of chrome and piano black trim that seems aimed at, shall we say, an older demographic, we found it has the best infotainment screen of the contenders here, though the chrome bezel made it look like a tablet propped on the dashboard. The Corsair boasts the only home screen capable of presenting multiple functions, map, stereo, etc., at the same time. We love the steering wheel controls. Cruise control buttons stay blacked out until the system is turned on, while the multifunction thumb joysticks work with simple prompts in the head-up display, HUD, an elegant solution to the inherent complexity of modern luxury cars. Still, we'd like a better driver's seat. The Corsair's feels overstuffed and difficult to settle into. The 2023 Lexus NX 350's cabin doesn't match our idea of traditional luxury, but we appreciate its high-quality materials, abundant storage, and the way the lower portion of the infotainment screen is devoted full-time to climate controls. Though we lament the lack of a home screen, we like the big, crisp display, and the ease of switching between navigation and stereo functions. The steering wheel joypads frustrate us, though. You have to put a finger on them and wait a beat for their function to be revealed in the HUD before they work. Doesn't matter if you already know what they do, they don't do it until the prompt appears in the HUD, which is silly and annoying. Speaking of annoying, that's how most of us view the 2023 Acura RDX's cabin. With its multitude of buttons jammed into a narrow center stack and a small screen that can only be manipulated with a tricky-to-use touchpad, the Acura feels years out of date compared to the other SUVs here, though it drew praise for its comfortable and supportive driver's seat. We were eager to try Lincoln's Active Glide system, which allows the 2023 Corsair's driver to take their hands off the wheel on mapped roads, and it did not disappoint. All 4 judges thought it worked beautifully. The steering gets choppy on sharper curves, but automated lane changes, initiated with a flick of the turn signal stalk, works nicely. When the system comes to areas it can't navigate by itself, it provides clear and early warnings on the dash and HUD telling us to put our hands on the wheel, and you still have the advantage of Lincoln's excellent lane centering system. It really reduced fatigue on a thoroughly uninteresting portion of the drive. The 2023 Genesis GV70 has the Pauper's Active Glide. It's not supposed to be a hands-off system, but it doesn't seem too bothered if you let go of the wheel, only asking for intervention in very sharp curves, by which time it's already veering over the lines. The Lexus lane centering works well, though its adaptive cruise waits too long to brake for rapidly slowing traffic. The Acura RDX's cruise was better behaved, but its lane centering system proved worst of the bunch, frequently wandering over lane lines. We left the 210 in San Bernardino for some quick city driving loops. All 4 of these SUVs take their compact status seriously, with good sight lines and easy maneuverability. The Acura RDX's light steering makes it feel nimblest, but its top-down parking camera is inferior to the others here. The Acura competes with the Lexus for the most road noise and the stiffest ride on bad pavement, though the Lexus exhibits refined damping over the biggest bumps. Contrast that to the Lincoln Corsair, which rode smoothly but clattered over pockmarked asphalt. The 2023 Genesis GV70 hit a nice middle ground, though its heavy steering felt ponderous in parking lots. From San Bernardino, we pointed our SUVs north to Route 18, the rim of the World Scenic Byway, an understatement in naming if we've ever seen one. This fabulous twisty climb proved to be the perfect place to evaluate handling, when we could draw our eyes away from the spectacular views, that is, and it's where the Acura really shines. The latest RDX was the most fun in the curves, with light, accurate steering and excellent responses. Much to our surprise, the Lexus wasn't far behind. It too exhibited excellent steering feel, if not the same chassis poise, and its engine sounded coarse and strained. The Corsair felt like it was tuned for comfort over speed, with steering that provided little useful feedback. Still, there's brilliance in the platform it shares with the Ford Escape, and you can make great time in the turns if you don't mind a slight out-of-control feeling. But the brakes spoil the fun. They're grabby and difficult to modulate, drawing criticism from all of the judges. All of us like the Genesis GV70's low, car-like driving position and solid on the road feel, but the heavy steering, which gets even heavier in sport mode, and to no good end, draws contempt. The GV70 feels good at a rapid pace, but if you push it as hard as it will go, it begins to feel like it's fighting against you rather than working with you. The entrance to Big Bear is dramatic. You climb through ever sharper curves, round a bend, and there it is, right in your path, Big Bear Dam and the lake behind it. In this part of California, high altitudes are normally associated with the desert, so a massive body of water at 7,000 feet is a novelty. First dammed in 1884 to irrigate orange groves at lower altitudes, Big Bear has been a popular tourist destination since the invention of the automobile. Droughts have been unkind to the lake and its surroundings, but the unusually wet winter just past has brought the water level right back up, and we got to see the lake in all its glory. We had a delicious dinner at Stella Luna. We weren't expecting many good choices, but Big Bear surprised us with its culinary variety, then settled in for a quiet night's sleep at the lodge at Big Bear Lake. We were up early the next morning, cruising through the Alpine-themed downtown for panning shots of the SUVs. A quick drive, everything's a quick drive in Big Bear, brings us to Big Bear Marina, where we may or may not have considered telling our boss all the SUVs broke down, then renting jet skis and spending the day on the water. Propriety prevailed, unfortunately, but we thought this'd be a lovely spot to crawl around back seats and trunks. The 2023 Acura RDX has the best back seat. Not only is it roomy, but the theater-style arrangement, with the rear seat elevated higher than the fronts, provides great visibility. The GV70's back bench feels cramped by comparison, with limited toe space under the front seats and plastic-clad front seat backs so close they feel like they are jammed in the backseaters' mouths. The 2023 Genesis GV70 is also the only contender without heated rear seats. You have to opt for the V6 engine to get them. The 2023 Lexus NX 350 is also tight on backseat space, though we like the thigh support provided by the long bottom seat cushion. But while the other SUVs have neat plastic trim around their latch child seat tether points, the Lexus has slits in the carpet that look like they were made with a box cutter. The Lincoln Corsair offers its rear passengers plenty of amenities, but the panoramic sunroof, which stretches front to rear, limits the amount of headroom for our taller testers. The RDX, GV70, and Corsair are comparable in terms of cargo volume, while the Lexus trails by a 5 cubic foot margin. Only the Lincoln has a sliding back seat to alter the ratio between legroom and luggage space. The Lincoln and Genesis both have spare tires, while Lexus and Acura use this space for extra storage. The RDX's is particularly trick, it's plastic lined and has a drain plug, which tempted us to fill it with ice, beer, and soda and revert to jet ski plan B. All four SUVs let you fold down the rear seats from the trunk. The releases are mechanical in the RDX and GV70 and electric in the Corsair. The Lexus has electric folding seatbacks, which can be lowered and raised from the cargo area, and there's a mechanical release on the seatback as well. Oh, and during our walk around, we noted the paint finishes. The Genesis and Lincoln have a lovely sheen, while the Acura and Lexus suffer severe cases of orange peel. We take the back way out of Big Bear on Route 38, which wends its way east before doubling back for the descent into Redlands. Back at sea level, we stop for lunch and a debate on our final ranking. By now, we are largely in agreement, not only on the finishing order but on the fact that all four of these vehicles fulfill their missions well. The Acura RDX, Genesis GV70, Lexus NX 350, and Lincoln Corsair all make convincing arguments for the step up to a premium brand. We'd happily drive any of the four for our next trip to Big Bear Lake, which can't come too soon. We never did get a chance to ride the Alpine slides. Fourth place goes to the 2023 Acura RDX. We love the Acura's racy driving dynamics, and it feels odd to relegate the SUV with the best back seat and cargo area to last place. But this competition is all about luxury and prestige, and the RDX, with its noisy ride, dated interior, small screen, and kludgy touchpad interface failed to deliver the experience we sought. The RDX is a great family car, and nicely differentiated from the Honda CR-V to which it is related, but it simply doesn't feel as luxurious as the other three SUVs here. The 2023 Lexus NX 350 takes third place. It's a competent, easy-to-drive SUV with a friendly and cheeky demeanor, and it's more comfortable and refined than the RDX, but it trails the Genesis and the Lincoln by a fair distance. It lacks the opulence of the GV70 and the Corsair, and it doesn't help matters that most of what the Lexus does well, the closely related Toyota RAV4 does well, too, and at a lower price. The 2023 Lincoln Corsair leaps well ahead of its Japanese rivals, actively gliding its way to a second-place finish. Active Glide is a great system, whether in hands-off or lane-centering mode, but that wasn't the only reason it did well. We like the interior ambience, infotainment system, and quiet, luxurious drive. The Corsair has no serious vices save its awfully abrupt brakes, and it might well have won this comparison but for its price tag. Sure, cutting Active Glide would cut the price, but it would also mean losing the upgraded stereo, heated rear seats, panoramic roof, and head-up display, and would make the Corsair a lesser SUV. But we simply couldn't justify the Corsair's pricing over the value-laden Genesis. Yep, the 2023 Genesis GV70 chalks up yet another win, though it's not a clean one. All four judges sharply criticized its poor voice response system, heavy steering, and cramped back seat. But even with these detriments, the GV70 simply looks, feels, and drives like the most expensive SUV in this test, all the more amazing considering the opposite is true. The Genesis GV70 also delivers the most prestigious experience in this comparison, and so it clinches the win.
We have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to help us.
The Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V are inescapable. They're the two best-selling SUVs in an SUV-crazed market, but we figure a portion of those buyers are ready for a more upscale replacement. Enter Lexus and Acura. Both Toyota and Honda introduced luxury brands in the late 1980s for just that customer, and the bulk of their output stems from augmented Honda and Toyota products. The Lexus NX and Acura RDX represent just that. Lexus builds the NX on RAV4 underpinnings, and the RDX is a distant cousin of the CR-V. In both cases, the luxury brand adds a more powerful turbocharged engine, unique approaches to tech, and distinct cabin designs. We spent a few days in lovely Big Bear, California, living with these two SUVs that in different scenarios felt exciting, creative, disappointing, and even potentially dangerous. Which is the better buy? Part of the luxury experience is power. In the Acura, Engineers installed a version of the 2.0-liter turbocharged i4 employed in the Civic Type R and the previous generation Accord. The Turbo 4 is mated to a 10-speed automatic and sends a respectable 272 horsepower to all four wheels through Acura's fabulous SHAWD. Lexus buyers get a 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder developing 275 horsepower and a lot more torque than the Acura, 317 pounds-to-foot compared to 280 pounds-to-foot in the RDX. An 8-speed auto and AWD are standard. Neither SUV is exceptionally quick, but the overachieving Acura reaches 60 miles per hour in 7.0 seconds, 2/10 ahead of the Lexus, thanks to its more advantageous gearing. In both cases, those numbers represent an improvement of at least 1.0 seconds over the CR-V and RAV4, though it's worth noting the RAV4 hybrid is nearly as quick as the Lexus and the plug-in hybrid RAV4 Prime is significantly quicker than either of our test vehicles. The power on tap in each of these small luxury SUVs will lend their drivers more confidence in merging, passing, and pulling away from a stoplight than they would have in non-luxury relatives, but the Acura is the better vehicle to drive. Steering is light and accurate, and the brake pedal is easy to modulate. We dig the soft leather-wrapped flat-bottom steering wheel, too, and the metal shift paddles feel outstanding. You'll hear the Acura's engine more than the NX's, but this one sounds better. Despite lower output and more weight on the spec sheet, the Acura feels quicker in the real world. Most editors preferred the handling of the blue car, too, praising SHAWD's ability to make the RDX feel smaller than it is in the Benz. The NX mostly just feels like a RAV4. We'd be wrong not to praise its shockingly granular steering feel, but the rest of the experience is mostly forgettable or worse. The Lexus feels heavy in corners despite weighing a carry-on bag less. It exhibits more body roll than the RDX, and although both vehicles permit more tire noise than we'd hope from a luxury SUV, the Acura is a touch louder. Refinement is an issue. We noticed a distinct powertrain coarseness in the Lexus, especially from 4,000 to 5,500 revolutions per minute. Engine stop/start is rough, too, though that's also an issue in the RDX. This power plant is not quiet or smooth enough for a luxury vehicle, no surprise considering it also motivates cheaper, more utilitarian vehicles like the Toyota Tacoma. At least the 2.4T is slightly more efficient than Acura's Turbo 4. The RDX wants you to drive faster, but the NX seems to actively discourage it. Both Lexus and Acura are generous with their driver assist content. A handful of active safety tech is standard even with both base models, but each presented issues. Neither car responded quickly enough to a car pulling away or entering our lane while using adaptive cruise control. Each lacks competent lane centering systems, too, occasionally wandering over lane lines despite reporting everything was under control. These misgivings are especially lackluster in the face of the competition. The Lincoln Corsair, Cadillac XT4, and Tesla Model Y all provide proper hands-free Level 2 autonomy on the highway, and Genesis isn't far behind. On the bright side, these two are also similar in their terrific safety ratings. Acura and Lexus are two of only three manufacturers in the compact luxury segment to earn a 2023's Top Safety Pick Plus, which is extra tricky this year with more stringent criteria. Both vehicles also earn a 5-star overall safety rating from the NHTSA. Of course, what separates luxury vehicles from normcore people movers goes beyond the driving experience. We want premium materials, elegant interior design, ample space, and bleeding-edge tech. We'll start with the Lexus. The automaker's current infotainment suite runs on a rather pretty 14.0-inch touchscreen with wireless smartphone mirroring and excellent Google-aided voice recognition. With a "Hey Lexus," the NX mostly heard and processed our requests with ease, never a given in this space. Lexus intuitively laid out the infotainment experience with large icons and readable text that kept time with eyes off the road to a minimum. Our test vehicle also featured superb 17-speaker audio. Lexus implements a near-perfect blend of physical and touch controls, with easy access to must-haves and a permanent row of touch buttons at the bottom edge of the touchscreen, seat heating/cooling and finer climate controls, but actual knobs and buttons for the hazard lights, 360-degree camera display, volume, drive modes, and temperature settings. Nicely done. One qualm with the setup is the lack of a home screen to display more than one category of information at once, like navigation and music. Drivers can see that info in the instrument cluster or head-up display, but we'd still prefer to have all the good stuff in one place. Speaking of the head-up display, Lexus does something funny with its steering wheel controls. The driver can make inputs through directional pads at 9 and 3, but the buttons are unlabeled on the wheel itself. Instead, they have multiple functions that change, so the head-up display shows which function you're about to input. This is easier to get used to than it sounds, but it's still overcomplicated. Sitting in the back seat, we were able to fit a 6-footer behind their own seating position with a couple inches to spare but tight headroom. One taller editor found the cabin claustrophobic even up front. Synthetic leather front seat backs class up the rear bench, as does the perforated, contrast-stitched upholstery. We took special note of the creative speaker grills, which eschew the typical laser-cut metal look for something more organic resembling leopard print. The cargo area has a higher load floor than you'll find in most of the NX's competitors, but the trunk space is sizable. A 12-volt outlet allows for out-of-the-way charging, and remote folding rear seat controls like those in the Lexus are tricky to find in the segment. The Acura cabin doesn't hold up as well under scrutiny, even if it offers a strong first impression. Up front, the driver's chair feels more comfortable than that of the NX, and the Acura's flashy leather and faux suede seating designated as something more special than an everyday crossover. Lexus offers something similar in the NXF Sport. Passengers in the rear will appreciate the extra couple inches of legroom afforded by the Acura's longer wheelbase, and the aforementioned taller editor fit just fine. The RDX also employs a stadium seating layout in which the hip point of the well-padded rear bench is higher than that of the front seats, allowing rear passengers a better view. Somehow, headroom for taller folks isn't more cramped than we found in the NX. Although both vehicles offer a usable amount of storage hidden beneath the cargo floor, no spare tires, the Acura does something clever. There's a little rubber plug at the bottom to drain any liquid in the hard plastic-lined storage cubby. The RDX's cabin's worst design traits are inflicted upon its driver. Acura uses an only partially intuitive unconventional shifter in the center console that crowds a middle stack already oversaturated with buttons and knobs. The use of fingerprint-hungry piano black plastic is more bothersome here than in the Lexus, too. We also took issue with the RDX's tiny instrument cluster display and dated physical gauges. The gauge font is inconsistent with the other text inside the vehicle, a small detail that makes the interior design a little less premium and cohesive. We haven't even touched on the Acura RDX's greatest sin. Acura's infotainment here is very clumsy and frustrating. The software itself is organized simply enough, with a clever split-screen sidebar for displaying different info, but the RDX insists on controlling the system through a touchpad similar to the one on your mom's old Dell laptop. This would be fine if it consistently worked. It doesn't. Navigating to an on-screen icon can take 2 or 3 tries, and that problem is amplified if you're searching for an option 2 or 3 pages deep. Try voice controls? Nah, they're ineffective in recognizing commands based on our experience. Reach out and just touch the screen yourself? No touch controls. A fumbling, antiquated experience like this does not feel luxurious, effortless, or elegant. It's more like trying to use HD DVDs in 2023. Not only that, the poor controls resulted in at least one driver on staff being distracted for what felt like dangerously long stretches trying to get the system to cooperate. Owners may begin to acclimate over time, but anytime a spouse or friend gets behind the wheel, it'll be a problem. There are better compact luxury SUVs on the market. The Acura does so much right, all to be let down by one of the industry's few truly awful infotainment experiences and dated driver assists. The latter is especially disappointing, having used Honda's newer tech, which is up there with the industry's best. Acura needs to do so little to make the RDX competitive. Swap the infotainment controls for a touchscreen or rotary controller, install a digital instrument cluster, and fit Honda's latest driver assists. More sound insulation and a fresh redesign wouldn't hurt. The RDX could be a contender. As it sits, this is an outdated, outclassed, barely adequate entry point to luxury car ownership. The NX's problems will be harder to solve. The thorn in the NX's side is the Toyota RAV4 Prime. That vehicle is more affordable but also offers much of the same feature content along with a superior refined powertrain and a better driving experience. Lexus fails to sufficiently elevate the NX 350 to justify our recommendation over its overachieving Toyota cousin. They have more luck with the NX 350h and NX 450h Plus plug-in. The tragedy here is that Acura's infotainment is so detrimental to its appeal, it slips behind its closest competitor. Today, the NX is the car we'd rather own.
We have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to help us. Welcome to Africa channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Welcome to Africa channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us.
Nissan and Toyota put the bans back. enjoyable to drive, even if it lacks the special sauce that made us love the last one so much.
We have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Welcome to Africa channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us.
This handy electric SUV is great.
We have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to help us.
With Tesla and Ford dropping prices on their EVs, which of these electric crossovers comes out on top? Whether it's the expansion of EV tax credits or that supply chain issues are getting better, both Tesla and Ford have recently announced they lowered prices on their two popular, all-electric crossovers, the Tesla Model Y and the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Which begs the question, when comparably equipped, which electric crossover offers buyers more? To make this as fair as possible, we're going to try and match equipment and range of both the Model Y and the Mach-E. The challenge is that Ford offers two drivetrain options and four trim levels, with plenty of chances to mix and match. The Model Y only has two trims, and both are all-wheel drive. Another difference is that the Model Y can come as a 7-seater with a 2-person third-row seat. The Mach-E only allows for 5. We're also opting to not compare Tesla's autopilot or full self-driving system to Ford's Blue Cruise. Given all that, let's narrow this look to the Mustang Mach-E Premium EOD with its extended range battery against the Model Y long range, as well as the Mustang Mach-E GT EOD against the Model Y Performance. In our most recent comparison between the Mach-E Premium EOD extended range and the Model Y long range, the Model Y took the edge as a better all-rounder. Each had their strong points. The Mach-E has a much more comfortable ride, particularly over rough pavement. But the Model Y offers more granular driving mode settings, allowing individual drivers to find their personal sweet spot a little easier than in the Ford. The Model Y is billed as a luxury-level mid-sized crossover, but its Spartan interior is starting to feel a bit underwhelming even when compared to the Mach-E's. The Ford's interior feels warmer than the Tesla's while also borrowing ideas such as hidden air vents and a large central screen. The cabin offers a clean, fresh-feeling execution for a Ford, we said, adding that the handsome gray cloth on the dash and speakers brought a premium feel. However, when it comes to passenger and cargo room, the Model Y ends up on top while the Mach-E's sporty exterior hampers its interior space. Cargo space is ridiculously impressive, with a deep, 3.1 cubic foot, hidden area under the floor, we said. The seats fold flat, too, and you feel like you could camp in the car. Rear passengers also have more foot and legroom in the Model Y. The Tesla's front seats are situated on risers in part to provide more toe space to rear riders. It's the same story on the technology front, with the Model Y offering a more intuitive interface despite being limited to a single, centrally mounted screen. Ford's system requires more digging in menus and a slower response time to inputs, at least it did before the latest OTA update from Ford, which we haven't yet been able to test in a Mach-E. The update brought a number of changes, including utilizing the central knob to adjust HVAC controls and other functions beyond audio volume, adjustments to the home screen for new icons and status bar, and changes to Sync 4A to make finding settings and controls easier. When it comes to overall efficiency and range, the Tesla Model Y offers another big advantage. Despite a larger 91 kWh battery pack, the Mach-E EOD will only manage 290 miles before needing a fill-up. The Model Y, on the other hand, is capable of going another 40 miles despite a smaller 75 kWh pack. Even on its optional 20-inch wheels, the Tesla can exceed the Mach-E's range by 28 miles. Then there's the not insignificant advantage of Tesla's excellent supercharger fast charging network, which is capable of delivering 250 kilowatts or about 12 miles per minute of charge to the Model Y. The Mach-E Premium is only capable of a 150 kilowatts charge, or about 5 miles per minute of charge on a DC fast charger. The one major setback for Tesla is its notorious build quality issues, including but not limited to large panel gaps, frustrating service center experiences, and steering wheels that just fall off while driving down the highway. Ford has a better track record with fitment and safety, although it's not immune to issues. And Ford has a large and well-established dealer network to get the Mach-E serviced when it does need something. Despite a few issues, the Tesla Model Y has numerous advantages: a better charging network, better technology, and more utility. Given that, when similarly equipped, the Tesla Model Y long range is just $54,990 with a recent price drop, it makes the $62,495 of the Ford Mach-E Premium EOD seem extra pricey. If you're only concerned with daily driving and ease of servicing, the Mach-E might be the better option. For everyone else, the extra range and the availability and consistent functionality of the Tesla supercharger network make the Model Y the better value here. Ford and Tesla also sell higher performance options for the thrill seeker, the Mach-E GT and the Model E Performance. It's not a secret that both vehicles are probably faster than they have any need to be, but we're glad they exist. On paper, the GT outmuscles the Performance, with 480 horsepower and 600 pounds-to-foot of torque. The Model E Performance makes do with 456 horsepower and 497 pounds-to-foot. Even so, these are numbers most internal combustion crossovers would dream about. And the Model Y makes up for its lack of grunt with a slightly quicker time to 60 miles per hour, 3.5 seconds for the Tesla, 3.6 seconds for the Mach-E. Get out to the quarter mile and the Model Y starts to gap the Ford as it crosses the trap with a 12.0 seconds ET and 114.7 miles per hour speed, with the Mach-E GT trailing behind by 0.6 seconds behind at 100.6 miles per hour. The Mach-E GT makes up some ground in the comparison when the road get twisty. The Ford is extremely well balanced, but occasionally it lacks the predictability we prefer in something we're going to drive hard. That said, the Ford is more settled and composed, with better control of its wheel and body motions. The Tesla is by no means unrefined or a poor handler, quite the opposite, it's just that the Ford is slightly ahead in these areas. Get on the brakes, the Mach-E also performs better, if only just. From 60 miles per hour, the Mach-E GT uses only 105 feet while the Model E Performance needs 113 feet. Those numbers might be close, but in real life they can make a big difference. During our road loop, the Ford felt like it had more grip and allowed us to brake later when approaching a corner. Despite that, our testers liked the Model Y more at the end of the day. It was its stronger, relentless acceleration, as well as the Tesla's consistency and predictability in its handling characteristics that made it our choice. We'd never turn down more miles in a Mach-E GT, however, and further fine-tuning of its software and chassis hardware ought to make it truly special in the future. Of course, with all of that performance, the downside is that range is also decreased, just like it would be for an ICE-powered crossover. The Mach-E GT will get you about 270 miles on a single charge while its highest performing version, the GT Performance package with its extra 34 pounds-to-foot of torque, drops it to 260 miles. The Model E Performance, on the other hand, benefits from the extra range that the standard Y finds over the regular Mach-E. It's able to go 303 miles while rolling on 21-inch wheels. The Mach-E GT/GT Performance uses 20-inch wheels. Both also use the same charging systems as their less performance counterparts we compared above, and come with the same advantages and disadvantages listed there. When you want the best performance out of your all-electric crossover but also the best value, which do you go for? Just like the less performing versions of the Mach-E and the Model Y, the Ford comes across as not offering enough performance to make up for its increased cost. At $65,495, the Mach-E GT AUD is $7,505 more than its Tesla Model E Performance counterpart, $57,990, and it's marginally slower to 60 miles per hour and offers less range. That's even before adding on another $6,000 for the GT Performance package, which adds 15.2-inch front rotors, summer tires, and Magna Ride dampers along with the 34 pounds-to-foot of torque boost. That makes the Mach-E GT Performance an astonishing $13,505 more than the Model E Performance, the crossover our editors would rather be driving. We have to say the new price of the Model E Performance makes it the better value in electric performance crossovers. Once you add in the addition of the Tesla supercharger network and its 250 kilowatts charging rate, it's not much of a contest. You're going to get more for your money with the Tesla Model E Performance. You're spoiled by choice if you're shopping for a new compact crossover SUV for your family. There are well more than a dozen offered by mainstream automakers, and that's before you get into the truly dizzying array of available powertrains and trims. Gas? Hybrid? Electric? Plug-in hybrid? A hot, sporty version? Something a bit more white bread? How's a buyer to choose? When faced with option paralysis, it helps to artificially limit those choices. So let's do just that with two of Motor Trend's favorite family-friendly compact SUVs, the gas-powered versions of the 2023 Hyundai Tucson and 2023 Kia Sportage. Which one is the better buy? We gathered up the range-topping 2022 Tucson Limited AWD, identical to the 2023 model, and 2023 Sportage X Pro Prestige to find out. Similarly, if you get your daily thrills by flat-footing your car's throttle, our test numbers also suggest you look elsewhere. Each of the 187 horses in these two 3,700-pound porkers moves about 20 pounds, making them roughly as quick as an airport TSA line. Both SUVs run from 0 to 60 miles per hour in a glacial 9.3 seconds, and if bragging rights are what you're after, know the Sportage just edges the Tucson in the quarter mile, posting a 16.9-second run at 82.1 miles per hour compared to the Hyundai's run of 17.0 seconds at 83.6 miles per hour. Thanks to its tire advantage, the Hyundai Tucson makes up ground in our braking and handling tests, stopping from 60 miles per hour in 118 feet and lapping our Figure 8 course in 27.4 seconds at 0.61 grams average. The Sportage's best performance was 128 feet from 60 miles per hour in a 27.9 second lap at 0.58 grams. If it matters to you, we're confident a Sportage on street tires would match the Hyundai's performance. Neither vehicle is particularly efficient for the compact SUV class. The Sportage is rated at 23/28/25 of a mile per gallon city/highway/combined, while the Tucson nets 24/29/26 of a mile per gallon. The competing Honda CR-V and Nissan Rogue achieve 27/32/29 of a mile per gallon and 28/35/31 of a mile per gallon, respectively. You can have your cake and eat it too with the hybrid and plug-in hybrid, PHEV, versions of both SUVs, both of which are significantly quicker and more efficient. The biggest mechanical difference between the two SUVs is the Kia Sportage X Pro's 17-inch wheels and all-terrain tires. Those tires will likely improve ride comfort on the road, perhaps at some expense braking distance, handling, and noise. If you're trying to decide between these two SUVs and you prioritize off-road performance, look elsewhere. The Tucson's 19.6/19.5/26.7 degree approach/breakover/departure angles best the Sportage X Pro's 18.9/19.0/26.6 degree ratings, but both are car-like. Again, unless you're a glutton for punishment, neither vehicle is capable of much more than your average national park dirt trail. On the open road, both Korean compact SUVs continue to deliver fairly underwhelming performance. The Hyundai Tucson is the more car-like of the two. Its driving position feels ever so slightly lower than the Kia's, and its steering feels heavier so it initially seems more direct than it really is. The Hyundai's ride is firmer, sending reverberations from each and every impact right up into the driver's seat. The Kia Sportage, on the other hand, feels more like a traditional SUV from inside. The low road traction of its off-road rubber gives the Kia's steering a somewhat charmingly loose, light feel, while the extra squish from its tires helps smooth out the Sportage's ride compared to the Hyundai S. Unfortunately, neither compact SUV has much going on under the hood. The buzzy 2.5-liter engines are loud, thrashy, and agricultural. Both manufacturers try to mask the lack of power with aggressive throttle tip in tuning for accelerating away from a stop, but the Sportage and Tucson struggle when passing slower traffic on a highway or uphill, a trait bound to get worse when loaded up for a weekend drive with the whole family. The Kia, though, makes up some ground with its transmission tuning. Its 8-speed automatic shifts aren't exactly timely, but the Sportage's transmission changes gear quicker than the Hyundai's does. It isn't afraid to hold lower gears for longer, either, keeping the Sportage's engine in the meat of its power band. The Hyundai Tucson, on the other hand, has a tendency to race to the highest possible gear as quickly as possible, and it's reluctant to downshift until the driver really digs into the throttle. That makes the Tucson much more difficult to drive smoothly than the Sportage. Both offer up sport, smart, and eco drive modes, but none drastically change the vehicle's behavior. The Hyundai Tucson and Kia Sportage offer near identical passenger and cargo space, but as with their sheet metal, they take drastically different paths in how they utilize that space. If minimalism is your thing, the Tucson will likely feel right at home. Its cabin is simple and stylish. Understated, even. Up front, metallic grille-like accents flow from the doors, past the twin freestanding 10.3-inch instrument cluster and infotainment screens, the former of which combines with the oddly shaped steering wheel spokes to look like an emoji, and across the rest of the cabin. Below the infotainment display sits a smaller alarm clock-style display for the HVAC system, flanked by capacitive buttons. A wireless phone charger is situated beneath. Though we generally like the Tucson's cabin, there's certainly room for improvement. The capacitive buttons on the center stack and center console are unresponsive and difficult to use while driving. The push-button transmission on the center console also takes up more real estate than it needs to, wasting space that might be better used for storage cubbies or additional cup holders. Whereas the Hyundai's cabin is somewhat cold in its modernity, the Kia's is warm and welcoming in comparison. The Sportage's stylish and thoughtfully designed interior features wood and metal accents, meaty D-ring-like door handles, and two massive 12.3-inch curved displays, one for the instrument cluster and one for the infotainment system. Kia hasn't forgotten functionality, either. The Sportage has a larger wireless charging slot than the Tucson, and its cup holders feature ingenious sliders that transform the space into a large cubby when not occupied by drinks. The Sportage's sole interior miss is its dual-function digital HVAC/media display. Although it looks great and cleverly saves space, it's a better idea in theory than in practice. It requires the driver to look away from the road to confirm whether the controls are in the media or HVAC setting, lest you accidentally crank the volume when trying to turn up the heat, and without haptic feedback you're left guessing as to whether you've accurately hit the system's other soft buttons. With regard to passenger comfort and space, the Sportage and Tucson are equals, though one editor noted the plastic trim on the Hyundai's front seat backs poked him in the back while driving. The Kia Sportage's superior interior design and slightly better road manners make the $1,750 premium over the Hyundai Tucson easy to overlook, but it's worth examining both pricing structures a little more closely. Our loaded Kia Sportage X Pro Prestige test vehicle slotted in at $39,255, and our loaded Hyundai Tucson Limited stickered for $37,505 as tested. The off-road Focus Sportage X Pro, however, doesn't match up directly with the Tucson Limited. The Road Focus Sportage SX Prestige AWD does. That model, which foregoes all-terrain tires and some bits of off-roady trim, is otherwise identical to the X Pro and can be had comparably equipped for $37,755, just $50 more than the Hyundai. While we're talking money, we should also talk briefly about the hybrid and PHEV versions of the Hyundai and Kia. The Tucson Hybrid Limited offers up to 226 horsepower and nets 37/36 of a mile per gallon for $40,455 when equipped identically to our gas-powered Tucson Limited. The Tucson PHEV has 261 horsepower and can travel on electricity alone for 33 miles for $44,690 when identically equipped before any potential EV incentives. It's a similar story for the Sportage. The 227 horsepower Sportage Hybrid SX Prestige gets 38/38 of a mile per gallon and stickers for $37,753. The Sportage X-Line PHEV, basically an X Pro with bigger wheels and street tires, has 261 horsepower and can clear 34 miles before the gas engine fires up. That version stickers for $44,960 before incentives. Both the Tucson and Sportage hybrids offer more refined performance and significantly better fuel economy than the base gas versions we tested here. They're undoubtedly better buys. As for these two SUVs, the win goes to the 2023 Kia Sportage. We appreciate the Tucson's styling and space, but we can't get over the unrefined driving experience. We know Hyundai can build a better compact SUV. While the Sportage suffers from the same powertrain woes as does the Tucson, the Kia helps us look past it, thanks to its slightly improved ride, superior transmission tuning, and stylish cabin. Sometimes it helps to limit your choices. In this case, we recommend sampling the whole segment before committing to one of these two compact SUVs. And we've already done just that. Stay tuned. Evrika Channel.